Hello.
How are you today?
Wonderful. What about you, Natalie?
I'm doing well. So you're our first guest on our podcast.
Very
Our
happy
very
and
first
blessed.
special guest. So you are a composer, a pianist, a conductor. What else do you want to add onto your impressive resume?
I think I do it all, but I don't excel at anything. I'm also an arranger. I play some other instruments as well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I
So
do.
what is the main instrument, if you don't mind me asking, jumping straight into it, that you mainly play?
My main instrument is piano, of course. Yeah, I play almost since I born. That's my main way to express myself.
Wow. So were you born into a musical family? Or how did your first experience with music kind of come about, in a sense? How did you know, yep, this is my career,
I
this is my
think
passion?
it's just an extraordinary coincidence. Yeah, I don't
Really?
come from a musical family at all, but me and my siblings, we are all artists. I don't know what happened there,
Very much of a creative family.
but my parents are not artists. I don't know how this happened. My sister is a ballet dancer, and my two brothers are rockers as well. They have a pretty successful band back home. Yeah, since a very, very early age, I started playing piano. When I was like 7 or 8, I was quite good at it, and I loved it, and I was playing all the time. So as I was progressing with my life and getting bigger and better, I was just doing it more and more, and I
Wow.
always enjoyed it a lot. I started playing classical music, then I jumped into the conservatoire, and I was good at it as well. And then when I was like 12 or 13, I discovered rock and roll.
And that took you aback. You're like, yep, this is
I combined both. Yeah, I've been
wow.
doing both for some time. Yeah.
Rock and roll and classical.
Well, yeah, and when I was like 20 or so, I started playing jazz as well.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so those are like my main three genres. But I also play a little bit of them all. Like make some electronic music when I can. I, as I told you, I do many things. I don't excel at any of them. But as soon as I'm getting a little bit good at something, it's time to shift away, try something new. Because I think that's what defines me as a musician. Trying to do it all, trying to make it all, explore new genres, explore new music, explore new things to do. So yeah, I've been doing classical music for most of my life, but as of now, I'm not playing any more classical music.
I think that's quite amazing, like hearing your journey, in a sense. It feels like to me that you're not afraid of going to the uncomfortable route, or trying out new things. You don't stay comfortable with where you're at. You're kind of excited to kind of tamper into different creative processes or ideas. So because when I'm hearing rock and roll and classical, I don't really bring or merge those two together. But you're like, no, why not?
Why not?
It's part of the creativity, in a sense.
Well, there are plenty of musicians who try to make both things, Freddie Mercury, for instance, or Andre Matus, the singer of Angra. He's also a conductor, someone I always admire, He's the singer of a very successful heavy metal band, but he's also a conductor of classical music.
Wow, that's incredible. In terms of, you just touched on musical influences. Are there any other musical influences that you feel like shaped you or allowed you kind of progress into the musical creative career in a sense?
There are many
Wow.
influences that I
Give me
can
top 5.
top 5 or like classical,
Or maybe top 3.
rock, jazz, a little bit of them all.
Let's bit of them all. Which ones have you felt like made a real sort of impact in terms of your transition?
I think in the classical world, I need to mention Beethoven. It's like a god for us.
Yeah.
And I also quite enjoy Schumann, Grieg, and the Russians, Tchaikovsky, Rachmaninoff, Shostakovich. And in terms of rock, I really enjoy bands like Slowdive, Radiohead, Porcupine Tree, and I'm a big 70s fan. I love Queen, Pink Floyd, David Bowie, Led Zeppelin. When it comes to jazz, I'm a little bit more traditional. I enjoy Bill Evans, Keith Jarrett, Brad Mehldau. Lately, he's really, really good. So I think those are my main influences. Artists that were always trying to push the boundaries and do something new. Yeah, I think probably Beethoven and David Bowie are the two most important ones. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very top on the list.
Yeah, because when they conquer success doing something,
Mm-hmm.
it was time to just do something new. It was never enough for them, and that's something very inspiring to me.
In that sense of like inspiration, where do you draw inspiration from?
That's a difficult one.
You can take time to process that.
Pablo Picasso says, I don't know where inspiration's gonna come, but when it comes, it better find me working. That's why I'm painting all the time. So I think I try to do the same. I'm always trying to produce new music, to compose new stuff. So when I have some new idea that I want to put in, it catch me working. I think my creative process is, of course, combining little things that I like from different artists, some like nice sounds, some nice harmonic sequences, some nice melodies, and I try to combine them all under my perspective, and that's what makes my sound, I guess. And then I complete all the gaps. I'm a classically trained musician, so I'm quite good at that, just following the rules to make safe music. That's easy for me. That's very easy. I have a deep understanding of that. But making nice and original music involves breaking those rules as well. If you give me a paper now, I can compose you a piece quite easily without even listening to what I'm doing. It's going to be safe. It's going to sound nice. But I'm not going to make anything new.
Do you feel like you're able to do that in a sense? Always break boundaries and barriers when it comes to your music and composing music through passion? Or do you feel like it takes something more in terms of will? Like, I feel like the question that I'm mostly trying to get at is, do you always feel passionate about where you're at in terms of your creative process?
I don't think it's just passion. Of course, you develop like an emotional connection with music sometimes. But also, when you are playing music all the time for your whole life, it becomes more of a habit. I always mention how difficult it is for me to listen to music because the music doesn't hit me. I am analyzing it. I hear the notes, I hear the chords, I hear the instruments. I don't hear the whole thing. It's difficult for me to like get shocked with some new music because I've been doing this for so long. So I really say sometimes, I wish I could hear this song again for the first time, but I can't. That's a little bit sad, but I don't know. I think it's what happened to all of us in all our jobs, because I've been doing this for so long. I started like my musical career when I was a boy, so I've been doing this for decades, even though I'm quite young yet. I've been doing this for so long.
Wow, that's incredible. Touching upon the fact that you've been doing this for so long and that you don't come from a musical background at all. What actually drew you to the instrument, say the piano? Do you remember like your earliest memory? Was it like your family handed you a Christmas present or was like, here you go, and you just kind of...
How did you know? How did you know?
It always starts with just a spontaneous little gift.
Did I mention that before? When we were waiting for the room? I think when I was 6 or 5, like that Christmas, our parents gave us like a little keyboard to me and my brothers. I started learning a little bit, and the music teacher was like, this boy is good, you should send this one to the music school. That was the beginning of the road. But I really don't know what happened, Natalie, because my earliest memories, my dream was to play drums. I guess my parents were like, no chance we will have a drum kit here.
Wow. So in terms of you being so good, or you kind of picking that up, well, I believe you were really good since a young age. Now looking back at your experience, this is more of a question. Maybe it's out of the loop, but do you believe that in a sense, hard work beats talent?
Yeah, completely. Talent is nothing without hard work. I've been teaching hundreds of students this last decade or so.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just had one student out of them all that was like, wow, this boy is talented in a way I have never seen before. All the rest of the time, I see people a bit talented, a bit good, a bit bad. It's all work. It's all work. The talent will take you a little bit farther the first 4, 6, 10 lessons. It makes these things a little bit smoother, but that doesn't mean absolutely anything, because talent without hard work is nothing. It's just potential, and unused potential is nothing at all. I guess if I'm good now, it's not because I had conditions when I was a boy. It's because when I was 14 or 13, I was practicing 6, 8 hours a day. Now I don't practice that much. No.
You've used your practice in a
I
sense.
think I have practiced enough. Yeah. Well, sometimes I feel a little bit bad or rusty, and I feel like, when you were 22, you used to play this piece much better. But yeah, I was practicing all the time. Now I play all right, but I'm growing older. The fingers get more rusty.
But it's also in an aspect, correct me if I'm wrong, you want to teach others what you've learnt yourself throughout the process. You know, I can imagine that since you didn't come from a musical background, maybe you had to self-teach yourself a lot of things in terms of creativity in the music, you know, kind of just allowing it to flow through you. And also maybe you've had people tell you what is right and what is wrong, and you've really had to trust your gut instinct in terms of when it comes to your music, when it comes to your creativity.
That's a very interesting question, because I had plenty of lessons through my life. I had plenty of teachers. I went to the conservatoire. I went to the university. Yeah, I have a degree in piano and conducting and stuff. But I always refused to take composition lessons. I always said, I want to do the things my way. I don't want anyone to tell me what to do with that. So I studied music theory, yeah. But for sure, I never wanted anyone telling me what to do. I needed to discover that myself. I think being a bit self-taught is very important in your musical career. You need to be able to create your own music, making analysis in the music you like, finding different things in common. In this song I like, in this song I like, in this song I like, and then trying to make it yours. But it should all come from you. You don't want someone else to do that, I think. So something I know most of composers do is like doing a lot of analysis of the things they want to do, the pieces they want to replicate, and then composing. Well, that was my conclusion as well, yeah. So that's more or less the way I started composing music. So I had plenty of help, but in some things I refused that help. I wanted to do my path as well. But I had very good teachers as well. I think if I am like an okay teacher today, which I guess I am because my students play fairly nice, they win awards, they play concerts, they make me very, very proud. It's a big part of my life. All is thanks to the great teachers I had through my life.
That's incredible.
I'm very lucky.
I think we seem to not devalue but not realize how much our teachers can act as mentors whilst growing up, and they can either propel us forward or kind of hold us back in a sense, where we subconsciously start to internalize that later on in our lives. So it's incredible that you've been able to kind of grow up in a somewhat supportive environment where you've had incredible teachers to really push and propel you forward. And I can imagine right now, as a teacher yourself, you want to see the best in your kids and your students.
I also had some pretty terrible teachers as well, but that helped me a lot to understand what I shouldn't do, how to be supportive, how to be helpful without being rude. In the classical music environment, it's very common to have teachers that bully you badly.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy like to turn that a little bit around and to teach my students from a different perspective,
Mm-hmm.
not being rude or violent with them. That is something very, very common in the classical music environment. Even now, if you go like to a piano master class or so, you will feel the teachers are like rude and mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the method of teaching around, the musical creative industry has changed from your time to now?
I think it depends which kind of style you are trying to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you learn classical music, it will take some time until you can get creative. You need to learn a lot of rules. You need to get good with your instrument. You need to understand how the things work. And I think perhaps that's something that musicians today are failing with a little bit. They go straight into making their own music before playing music. You need to learn how to play first. You need to learn what you want to do. You need to be able to play a couple of songs in your instrument from beginning to end. And I have met so many producers out there that can't play a single song and they want to make their own music. And it's like, how do you want to be creative if you don't know your instrument, if you don't know your resources? So I think we could draw a little bit more of inspiration from classical music on that end, where before you can compose one piece, you need to check many, many boxes. You need to learn a lot of rules. You need to learn a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can start talking about being creative.
Wow. So we've touched on your early childhood, in a sense, how you picked up the instrument and kind of just became brilliant at it. And then you told me that you studied music at university.
Mm-hmm, I did.
So since university till now, tell me about your journey.
I started university when I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the last year in high school, all my friends were like, okay, what am I going to do now? I want to be an engineer. I want to fly planes. I want to be a rocket scientist. And to me, it was always very, very clear. Years ago, I knew what I was going to do. So I just went to uni. I did it very well, very quickly. And before even finishing uni, I got some very nice works back home, conducting orchestra. First as an assistant. First I start gluing the scores. Then I start conducting the rehearsals. Then I start arranging. Then I start conducting concerts. Then I become a teacher at my hometown conservatoire, which is quite important. Then I got more and more jobs as chamber music teacher and stuff. So back home, when I was like 27 or so, I was doing really, really well. Everything was going very smoothly. I had my orchestra to do my stuff. I played my concerts every year. But I was having some nightmares sometimes in waking up, being 40, and still being there, stuck in that life. I felt like I reached the ceiling a bit too early. And then it's when I decided to move here, knowing that perhaps here I won't be able to reach that level of success so easily, so fast, or perhaps at all. But I wanted to do it because there must be something more in life, than that, right? I wanted to do more, to see the world, to have more experiences, because that's what it's about. Some people out there is happy with stability, having a job, doing what I like, that's enough. But to me, that wasn't enough. I wanted a bit more. So I moved here, I had some different jobs. I first started teaching piano in an academy. Then I started playing in some bands. Then I started being a teacher on my own. I worked at the studio. I did different things. But at the same time, I got a little bit tired of classical music. It's been too much. All these years doing classical music made a bit of like a damage to me in a way. It's too much time invested in front of the piano, in front of a piece of furnishing. No matter how hard you work, it's never enough. And you play concerts for 20 people if you are lucky. The audience is disappearing. The business is going down. Something that really depresses me is like if you're a conductor and you have your orchestra, you need to always rely on charity to make it work. You always need a sponsor, you always need an embassy to pay for your expenses, or a university, or a government, or something like that. Classical music is not generating money. Well, perhaps, yes, the big spheres, but that's very, very little. The rest of the business is going really, really down due to the lack of interest of the audiences. Just old people go to see the concerts, and sometimes not even that. So when I came here, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I did it enough. It's so much work. And I don't want to play more concerts with my orchestra, 60 musicians on stage for 20 people in the audience. I get no money for that. I think it's simply not worth of the effort. Perhaps if you conduct like an important symphonic orchestra, the thing is different. But how many of them are out there? It's something like very, very little. I don't know how it works here in London. If you go to Barbican, you could see some amazing orchestras, yeah. But all the other amateurish orchestras out there are really struggling to get the money or even the interest of the audience to go to the concert. So is it really worth of it? I can go and play rock. I'm playing this 2023. I think I'm playing 90 gigs this year. 90. Without need to practice 8 hours a day, with international trips. I think it's a nicer life. With sold out venues, with people feeling the music, people being happy with what you do. I'm not missing the classical music business at all. I'm missing the music, yeah. Of course, I miss spending more time with Beethoven and the guys, yeah. But I don't miss the business. It was a bit too hectic. There is like very few nice positions.
Yeah, I think it's quite sad that I think the only takeaway that's a bit quite sad is that you've mentioned that there's kind of dying interest for the classical musical arts, especially in our day of age. You know, a lot of, especially the younger generation, don't really call on classical music. You know, I'm quite young myself, and I don't really know anybody that listens to classical music.
Have you ever been to a concert by the symphony?
No, I haven't.
You see?
Yeah.
Why?
And I've really had to, you know, and I feel like we are so taken away maybe by other genres of music that the classical arts don't really call on us, but it's not something that I'm actually happy about. I actually do feel a bit sad in a sense that I do feel like there's like a wave of a generation not dying out, but that's just kind of, you know, not being appreciated enough, just like you said, because you have some amazing, incredible, talented individuals that their art will be recognized forever, but it's just not being appreciated enough in our day of time. And, you know, I can imagine that, you know, if you go do rock, you have way much of a wider audience than if you would do classical.
But rock is also vanishing. It was so popular like in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 70s, and now it's not that popular anymore. Rock is really merging in popularity as well. It's still popular, but I don't know, when I was in high school, like everybody was listening to rock, and now my brother, he's a high school teacher, he tells me like, no one listens to rock among my students at all. They are all listening to some other genres. It's something that is fading as well. So it comes and goes. I play jazz as well, and it's also difficult to get your audience there. Not a lot of people listen to jazz. Classical music, I think the main problem is like everybody thinks it's something very complex. I think the people who handle the business who always wanted to make it feel like that. Like if you don't understand this, you shouldn't come. Well, here we are, no one's going. And you have some interest in some concerts by some people who likes it, but I really remember back home just playing for senior people or music students. No one else was interested into it. And it's very sad because the music is beautiful, it's wonderful, and you don't need to know anything to appreciate it. In contrast with what people says, you just need to go and embrace, because the music is simple in a way. It's something amazing to go and see, like a symphony by an orchestra. There's so much stuff to have fun with. But people think that's complicated and boring and long, and well, it might be in a way. So the classical music made it a little bit difficult for the audiences, making pieces more and more difficult and long and complex and dissonant, and all the stuff pushed the people to some other genres. And then people started to listen to jazz. And then after a couple of decades, people started to play free jazz mixed with contemporary music, with change the noises, and then people was like, let's listen to something else, and like so on.
Yeah, it's quite sad, because when I think of classical, I do think of it being very much intricate. You have so much that goes on into creating or composing a piece. But I feel like maybe this generation, we're becoming a bit more where we just kind of want to hear simpler pieces, in a sense, where we're not too invested in how much work or sounds is kind of going on in the piece, which is kind of sad, because we're losing that sense of like actually working hard and really becoming more in touch with the creativity behind a piece, you know? And that really is shown through in terms of, especially with classical music, once you hear it, you can know that there is so much work that goes on behind the scenes, especially part of the creative process. But so, touching what you do right now, you said that you play jazz, but you also do rock.
Yeah, now I'm playing mainly in rock bands, in tribute bands and stuff. Can't complain. It keeps my agenda pretty busy.
That's incredible. So you said that you like to tamper into different styles and genres. Is there actually a new style or genre that you're thinking about tampering into?
That's an interesting question. Well, I've been recording some new songs. I hope they will get some airtime soon. I have to finish the last one. They will probably be released this year. And instead of trying to think in what the people want to hear, what's going to be popular, what's going to match what the market needs, I just do whatever I wanted. And I have mixed all the styles in such a strange way. I'm quite proud of what I did. It's probably my most personal work. There is a song that starts like an Afrobeat song, and it finishes up like a house electronic song, and then I go to ambient. Everything in the 3 minutes only. That's what I like, yeah. You need to mix stuff, you need to mix genders, you need to mix instruments. Always trying to find some new sounds, always trying to find some new way to combine the resources that you have. But I don't know if there is like a new rising genre that's gonna be my main thing. I hope I find it, but I'm still on the search.
Yeah, no, you strike me as a very much of a creative individual, you know? You do. And do you ever feel like sometimes, it's like we said, how do you find the balance of maybe staying original and authentic, but also knowing that this is what the listeners want to hear, or maybe the audience would like to hear this instead? So how do you kind of find that middle ground when you're composing a piece, in terms of, well, how authentic am I going to stay to this piece, but also will this gain me any viewers or listeners?
It's a very interesting question, yeah. But I think you need to stay authentic to yourself, because you want generate enough interest if you are not something you're really like devoted into it. I've been trying to do what the market needs, and I'm not very happy with it. It sounds good, I did a good job, but I don't feel it personal enough, and I feel like if you want to do something really, really cool, you need to do what you want, and of course, try to balance it in a way that may resonate with your listeners, with the people out there. You need to, of course, generate interest in the people. But if you play it too safe, you won't. You need to break some rules. You need to do something original. If you write a very nice song where everything sounds nice, and if you write a very experimental song with some interesting sounds and weird harmony and strange vocals, I'll probably say that one is the one that will take you farther, because you won't call people attention just by doing what everybody else is doing. You will just stay safe. And I think I mentioned today, you stay safe to fill the gaps in your music, but you put the magnifying glass on the things that will make it special, on those things that are new or interesting, some cool sounds, some cool chords, some cool sequence or melodies. You definitely need to chase something like that, something that makes something in the listener. Not just, oh, this sounds nice. No, it need to be like a bit of a shock. Otherwise, how are you going to catch their attention? So I think it's more important to do what you want. Nowadays, with the internet and social media, it's more about targeting to the right audience. We don't have to make songs radio friendly anymore like in the 90s. Now you can just try to target to the right audience that will listen to that. So it's very important to remain authentic, experimental, doing new things and doing the things that you want to do. But you need to know what you want to do. That's my problem sometimes. I never had like problems like with writer's block or so. I just do my job. But sometimes, I'm clueless in which is the direction to take now. I need to listen to more music. I need to steal some new ideas from some new places and decide how I'm going to combine them. Yeah, we all do that. There's no shame in it.
Yeah, no shame at all. No shame at all. You said that you don't really hit a writer's block. Is that... Then do you ever feel, say, sometimes demotivated, or you feel like you've hit a stage where, again, you've touched on this, but you feel like you've kind of done everything and you don't know which path you want to take next, in a sense?
That's my writer's block, yeah. Don't know where to go, or I'm writing music that is good enough, but it's not great, so I need to keep on trying. But if that happens, you need to go and listen to some new music, get some new ideas, get some new instruments perhaps, find some new sounds. You need to get more inspiration. Decide how you're going to mix this inspiration to make something new. So yeah, that's my writer's block, not knowing what to do next, because you can't go any place. That's how I feel. Like I could do anything. So what? So what am I going to do? Taking the decision is tough, because of course making the decision implies to discard some other options, and you don't want to sometimes, but you have to. I always admire the artists that have a clear idea on their minds, like I want this to sound like this, and this is what I'm going to do, and in this part of the song I want this, and in this part of the song I want that, and I want an introduction like that. And I am like, wow, how you do it? To me, it's more about like finding it all, I always
just going along, just letting it flow, in a sense.
I really believe in the flow of the music. Sometimes I say I compose music, but sometimes I say I discover the music. Not that I compose it, it's just there. You need like to find it out. I don't know if you heard what Michelangelo, the sculptor, said. He said like, I saw the angel trapped in the marble So I carved to release him. And I always thought like my music should be like that, you know?
You discover it.
Discovering is important. Yeah, not composing, discovering. Sometimes I feel like I listen to someone else's music and it's like, that's great. Why didn't you think on that? Someone else discovered it first than me. It can happen.
It can happen. What would be your advice, in a sense, when people kind of reach that roadblock of maybe losing their sense of creativity when it comes to their artistic processes? Especially, say, being a composer, if they feel like they've reached a roadblock where they feel like the music or the discovery isn't necessarily coming to them at that moment or for a period of time, what would be, say, your advice, or what was your methods around that, in a sense?
Listen to more music, listen to new music, and try to decide what you're gonna do. Because when you have the path in your head, you just need to fill the gaps. But I think the writer's block comes when you are directionless, when you don't know where you want to go, or perhaps it can happen too when you have very high standards. When it might happen when you just release a great album, a great song, and you feel you're not going to be able to replicate that. Well, I think if that happens, you need to perhaps not even try and do something different. Because if you're going to be trying to keep those expectations, your expectation, if you are strict as I am, it's going to be difficult, perhaps impossible. So perhaps it's time to turn around, do some different stuff rather than try to make something better than what you did. Perhaps you will be able to do it, but now, I don't know. That's probably not the moment, because you will probably get a little bit stuck. You're going to get too strict with what you want. But if you are just facing a normal writer's block, just go listen to some new music and try to decide what you're gonna do next. Try to decide what you're gonna steal from this artist, what you're gonna steal from this artist, and from this one, and how are you gonna make it yours, combining it, and then just go for it. I don't know, for me, it's a little bit straightforward.
So, going back towards your journey, you gave me that look there.
My journey.
Yeah, your journey. Because this is your journey, and it's not ended. It continues, and it will continue to continue. But what would you say is your highlights of your, say, musical career, in a sense? Or is there anything that you look back on and be like, this changed me or my outlook, or this propelled me in my creativity?
I don't really know. I need to think on that.
You can have as much time as you want.
I'm pretty proud of some of the concerts I have conducted, some of the symphonies I made, some of the concerts I have played with my orchestras and the classical side, and releasing music. Well, I never had that much massive success, but I'm always happy to create songs that are going to be nice and interesting for anyone who wants to listen to them. My goal as a composer, a songwriter, is to make some nice songs for the people out there, something interesting, something special, not the same thing that you could hear any other place. And I'm quite proud of my creations. I'm also very proud of what I do, playing in my bands, to make people happy every weekend, to make some very successful international tours. Those are probably my highlights, yeah. I always say this was the pinnacle of my life, but now I don't remember what was it, what do I always mention. I have, definitely, I'm lucky enough to have many, many moments that I can quote here. A lot of them probably in the classical world, but that doesn't make the rock moments less happy. I'm really lucky to do what I do, to play each weekend and bring joy to the people. Something that I don't think I was doing playing classical music.
No, I'm sure you are. I'm still sure that people, there's at least one person that is touched by the music you play, but you wouldn't ever know, right?
I will never forget one concert in one church in the middle of nowhere, back home. One guy came to greet me after the show. He shook my hand and he was like, "Thank you." I will never forget that. But I have reactions like that, like 10 a week playing rock. So you see the difference.
Definitely. I think that's so, so beautiful when you
It
actually get
is.
that personal touch. And I think it's a memory that doesn't really wipe away, because as a human being, you like to know that you've touched someone in that way.
Perhaps that's one of the milestones in my life. Just touching that only guy was enough.
It's beautiful. So what's next for you, in a sense? I know we talked about not knowing where we're going, but are there any upcoming projects that...
I have these 6 songs I'm going to release soon, and I have some other 6 songs half done that they're gonna come in the next year for sure. I have load of touring coming each weekend, taking until the end of the year and to the next year. I still can't say it, but I might have another international big tour in December. So fingers crossed. Hopefully that will work. These last 2 months I've been in Greece, Poland, Australia. Can't complain at all. I've been doing...
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's very nice to be able to travel with your work, to bring joy to all these people in different parts of the world. I feel really spoiled when I'm traveling with my bands. Can't complain. It's a life I love. When we were in Australia, most of my band was like, "Oh, I want to go home. This is too much." And I was like, "I love this life.
Bring it to me.
I could stay here forever."
Oh, yeah. I think there's beauty in being able to do what you love most, but also having that as a job, but also being able to travel the world and have experiences that not really an ordinary person can have, in a sense. And there's a sense of appreciation for that, which I feel from you. You know, you very much appreciate the fact that, wow, like this is my job, but it doesn't feel like a job. And I also have these cool experiences that really come along with it.
I always say that this is a job, isn't it?
You have to question there for a second, like, what? Is this my life?
I am very, very lucky to do what I do. And I never really liked those artists that are like, "No, this is my art and it's worth of something and I want all this money." I am more like, are they really paying me to do this? I am very lucky. I found a glitch in the system. There are 2 very difficult careers in life, more than all the other ones. And I think those 2 careers are arts and sports. If you are lucky enough to make your life in any of these 2, you made it. Because both in arts and sport, you are making your life and your money and your living in things that most of the people will pay to do. It's like that.
That's hit me. Yeah, I'm going to take that one away. I was just about to ask you if there is any advice that you would give, especially to young, say, artists or composers, right? People that have dreams. What's a piece of advice that you would give to anybody that has dreams or big goals, you know, in terms of breaking it into the industry?
It might sound a bit harsh, but my advice is we all like music. We all love music. Don't get yourself into the musical business just because you like music. That's not enough. You need to be obsessed with it. You need to be really obsessed. And you need to be able to overcome load of harshness, blow after blow, failure after failure until you have your first victory. So yeah, that's what Michael Jordan said to young basketball prospects. Like, we all love playing basketball, But the question is, are you obsessed with it? Are you able to practice 12 hours a day and shot 1,000 free throws each day to get better? Because most of people don't like it that much. And I think it is like that. And probably when I started with my career, I never expected the things to be so hard. Even myself, that I did pretty well, as a talented young boy and stuff. Later on, the thing was really spiced up. It wasn't easy. We all like this, yeah, but you need to have a very, very big inner strength and focus and balance to be able to continue on this track. I also have seen so many musicians that simply fell off the board.
I think that's very good advice. It's like what you said in terms of everybody loves music, but you have to be extraordinary in a sense. You have to be obsessed with your art and creativity.
And it's not that much about your conditions or your talent. It's about your will to devote all your time and your energy into doing this, and also your strength to overcome all the bad moments. Because you will have plenty. You will be rejected over and over and over. You will fail a load of times. You will leave stage crying many times until you finally make it. Sorry. That happened to me a lot. Yeah, it's like you see me now and I play on stage and I have fun and I don't make many mistakes and everything sounds smooth. It wasn't always like that, no. I faced a lot of harshness. I had a lot of issues. They're just a part of the game.
That's beautiful. Yeah, listening to you talk, that's, I always say everybody's my mentor. Everybody that I meet in life, I can learn something from. So that was beautiful advice right there. Thank you so much for coming to our very first podcast. You've been an incredible first guest, and I hope you had fun today.
It was amazing to be here, Natalie. Thank you so much for the invitation. I hope some of the things I say might be useful for the listeners.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure they will be. Thank you.
They better be. Thank you, Natalie.